Welcome to the Power Lunch on LinkedIn Live. I'm Rhett Power, your host. I'll be doing this program every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time on LinkedIn's new live platform. I will be talking to today's thought leaders, best-selling authors, CEOs, and people who are generally doing good things in the world about their secrets to success and their habits and how they can help us all be better. And the fun part is that this is an interactive show. So if you do have a question, please ask. Sometimes we don't get to all the questions or comments during the program, but I know Michael and I, who's with me today, will definitely get to the comments after the show if we don't get them to them during. We're also simulcasting this on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube with the help of Social Live's new platform. Now, I like to say if you like the program, please like and share it and spread the word. Now, I also say that it's time to learn from the best, and today we have one of the best, Michael Dash. He's a former CEO of Parallel HR Solutions, which I think he's probably happy that he sold last year, I'm guessing. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit. He's got a really compelling story. He talks about in his new book, and we'll talk about that a lot today. He's a former addict. He says he's a colleague of mine at Thrive Global. We both write and contribute at Thrive Global, and he's the author of a must-read new book. It's called Chasing the High. It's a story of his personal journey through addiction, legal battles, to success. Michael Dash, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Rhett. It's great meeting you. Great being here.
Yes, yeah. When we got the advanced copy of this, I said I've got to talk to this guy. We'd never met, so that's okay. That's the nice thing about doing a program like this. You get to talk to really fun and interesting people who are doing really interesting things. In the book, you talk about flow, and we're going to cover a lot of stuff today. You talk about flow, you talk about your moment of clarity. That's all stuff I want to talk about. But tell me about your journey. I think it's fascinating that you went through all of this. I mean, entrepreneurship is hard to begin with. So how in the world did you be successful as an entrepreneur, yet at the same time go through all this other stuff?
Yeah, I was a very driven person. I grew up the son of an entrepreneur, so I saw my dad as the first person in the office, the last person out of the office. He believed in that mentality of, work harder, and that's how you get ahead. So I don't really subscribe to that now. I would rather work smarter. But for the most of my life, I was working harder. I was the first one in, the last one out. I put the hours in. I kept my head down, and I was driven by money. To me, money equaled success. Money equaled happiness. Money equaled everything that, at least for me, I grew up on in terms of my father was successful. I had a middle-class family. I was very fortunate from that standpoint. And I bought into all the media and all the other hype of how money equals happiness. You get everything once you get money. You get the houses, the cars, the boats, the women, the jewelry, the everything. Right. So I just had this fascination with money. And the reality turns out years later, because I made millions and I lost millions. And the whole irony of the situation, the reality of the situation is I was much more fulfilled as a person without the money than with the money. That's not to say that money is not important. It is very important, especially if you want to have impact in this world. You need a certain amount of financial wherewithal to be able to reach the masses. So I certainly understand that as well. So there's definitely a balance that needs to be met.
What okay, I totally get that, right? Because you've got to be happy with yourself. Money's not going to make you happy, right? You got to be happy with who you are and where you are in life and what you're doing. I mean and that's a separate thing. I think that we all have to sort of work on individually, and I think that. But you talk about finding in the book. You talk about finding the flow. What does that mean to you, and what does that mean in general?
So I went on a trip about 3 years ago to Bali.
Okay.
At the time, I was very unhappy with my life. I was running, but from the outside, it looked like I had everything, but internally, I was miserable. I was running.
Like what? Explain that though. How did you know that?
So I was running a company that was really running me. I wasn't really running it.
Okay.
I was CEO, but it was my CEO. So I was involved in a 6-year legal battle with my ex-business partner. That was eating me alive, not only financially, but emotionally. I was battling with my own attorneys on a daily basis.
Okay.
I was smoking marijuana every single night. I was taking Adderall in the morning every single morning. So I would take this Adderall, I would get into work, take the Adderall, like pump out a few hours of very, on point work. And then I would get, angry and my personality would change and I wouldn't treat my employees the way they deserve to be treated.
Okay.
And then, I would be making decisions. I mean, I was a small business owner.
Right.
We were successful. We did about 5.5 million at our peak a year. But at the end of the day, it was about 30, 40 people, 2 or 3 offices, depending on the time frame. And I felt like I was making decisions every 15 minutes. I had to make a decision. And I was just like overloaded. And I
get it. I totally get it. Yeah.
I didn't delegate well because I couldn't get out of my own way. And I had this huge ego of like, you're going to tell me, that type of arrogance. And it wasn't until I found flow and I took this trip to Bali that I really started shifting my mindset. And there were 2 people at this retreat I went to who were talking about living in flow by following your intuition and making decisions through your intuition and your heart or your gut versus your head. And this can lead to living an effortless life. And all these things can happen in your life. You can manifest your future and you can see all these amazing synchronicities. And like those words didn't exist in my vocabulary. And to be honest, I thought they were complete BS.
You read that stuff and you're like, that's bullshit. That's not.
Completely. I thought it was complete nonsense. I thought the people were nonsense. I told them I thought they were nonsense.
Right.
And we ended up talking after their session because they described how they changed their life from these corporate jobs that they really weren't happy in, but they were very successful in, into like studying flow and teaching flow to the rest of the world. And they started this Flow Consciousness Institute. If anybody's interested, they can go online and look at it. And I would encourage you to do that. However, for me at the time, I was just hard-headed, driven by ego, arrogant, thought I had all the answers, even though I knew I had none.
Well, that's a familiar feeling.
Yeah, buried in my subconscious, I knew I needed support, help, all this stuff, but I couldn't take it from my subconscious and move it to my conscious state of mind so I could actually act on it.
Right.
So when I spoke to them after they kind of gave their little spiel, I spoke to them for about an hour. They told me about their course. It was like $1,000 online interactive course. And they go through this whole process of clearing out your limiting beliefs through things like tapping and EMDR, where you're moving your eyes back and forth and you're like tapping on your neck and you're repeating these limiting beliefs and clearing them. And then you're doing the same thing and putting in positive beliefs. So an example would be change is difficult. So you would clear that belief. and then you would implant change is easy, right?
Right.
And you go through all of these around money, around relationships, around all this stuff. And it was actually very emotionally exhausting, even though when they told me about it, I thought it was a joke. But I said, you know what? When I left that trip from Bali and I flew back to the States, I thought to myself, would it be so bad to live a different way? And I was so angry and upset and frustrated and isolated and self-medicating that the answer was clear to me that no, actually, that sounds amazing. That really sounds great. I want to try something different. I'm going to drop the ego. I'm going to not worry about the money, and I'm just going to do this. And I took the course and actually started working it, and things actually started manifesting for me. And I had never said the word manifestation, said the word synchronicity, or believed it at all.
I get it. You talk about a drive with your brother that I really thought was interesting, and talk about that drive with your brother and where you had your sort of moment of clarity that you really had to change your life.
Yeah, at the time I was heavily addicted to gambling. I gambled every single day. I woke up thinking about gambling and went to sleep thinking about gambling, all while being very successful at my job. I've always been a good sales guy, and I always maintained that because I knew I needed to be successful at the job to have money so I could gamble or so I could go buy weed or whatever it was I was doing, right? And so I was able to maintain that. But one Thanksgiving drive my brother and I were taking from New Jersey up to Massachusetts, I had put sports radio on because I needed the latest injury information on the football teams that were playing that day so I could decide who I wanted to gamble on. And he would not allow me to put the radio on. And we got in a little argument back and forth. And he's like, we're not listening to sports radio. We're listening to music. I can't listen to this anymore. I'm going to Gamblers Anonymous. I said, what? You're going where? What a loser.
You doing that?
I knew he was gambling because we would gamble together all the time, but I had no idea he went to Gamblers Anonymous. So when I found that out, we got in this argument. I relented. I listened to the music for 3.5 hours. And all of a sudden, my mind was at ease. It was a very calming, soothing ride. And at the end of the ride, I was like, wow, that actually felt great. My mind wasn't racing 1,000,000 miles an hour trying to figure out what game I wanted to bet on. And at that point, I got out of the car and I thought to myself, I want to know what this GA did to my brother. Where's my brother? So he didn't ask me to go. He didn't tell me I needed to go. He didn't tell me, you're out of control. All things which I could have been told, but it was my curiosity. Yeah, exactly. It was my curiosity that led me to go check out a Gamblers Anonymous meeting in Fair Lawn, New Jersey, when we got back the next week. And I went into that meeting, and I remember sitting in that meeting. I looked around and I thought, wow, what a bunch of degenerate losers that I'm surrounded by. I'm like, do they know that I make 6 figures, that I work in New York City, that I wear pinstripe suits, that I have a $5,000 watch, that I drive a nice car? Do they have any clue? Look, I got this mailman over here and this school teacher and a lot of blue collar people. And I was just so arrogant. But by the end of that 2-hour meeting, I realized, oh my God, I got more in common with every single person in this room than I do with my very closest friends.
Indeed. Why tell such a personal story now?
Well, for a long time, I feel like I was living an unfulfilled life, and I was chasing a variety of highs. Mostly money, but all other things too. With the drugs, with the success, with the possessions, and I've done a lot of volunteering. And I realized as I was volunteering, I've done a lot with Leukemia Lymphoma Society, for instance, and I would take trips to the hospital, visit a 4 or 5-year-old child who has leukemia, and they're like in great spirits and everything. And I go and I bring them a little, I don't know, a little stuffed animal or whatever. And like their faces light up and they're so happy and they're so grateful. And that feeling inside of me started overwhelming any business deal I made, any sales deal I made, any of this stuff. And I knew I was kind of suffering in silence because I was isolating myself and nobody really knew what was going on internally. Mm-hmm. And believe me, I'm not telling my story because I want any pity party, because the thing about my story is all my problems were self-inflicted.
Right.
And I know a lot of people, a lot of their problems are self-inflicted. They might not.
Most problems are.
Yeah, they might not want to face it. They might not want to be, it's buried in their subconscious, right? They are self-inflicted. So I came to a point where, I owned and ran a technology staffing company, recruiting company. And it just, the redeeming qualities of finding $100,000 software engineer, $120,000 job just weren't there for me anymore. I wasn't getting the fulfillment. And the money did not make me happy because, I had millions and I lost millions. And like I had mentioned before. So at that point, I surround myself with a lot of entrepreneurs. A lot of them have different addictions and they don't really want to speak about it or want to talk to anybody about it because they're the leader of the company. They don't want to show signs of weakness. They don't want their employees to find out. They don't want their peers or clients to find out because they're in fear of losing business and of being.
It's not a natural thing. It's not a natural thing.
Right. It's more natural not to speak about it than to speak about it. So, it's been cathartic for me to kind of talk about it, but I'm really talking about it to impact other people so they know that, people will actually respect and resonate with you more if you can connect the personal struggles that we all go through. Mm-hmm. Some more deeper than others.
Right.
And that there are other people that are here for support. And I want to be a person of support because I didn't have the support that I really could have used during those times.
You talked about in the book, you talked about building a support network. How do you do that? I mean, how do you find the right people to be around? How do you do that now?
A lot of it's
because you're isolated. When you're an entrepreneur, I feel sometimes you're out there on an island. I think you said that, but I think that's a great analogy because you are, or at least you feel you are.
Completely, because your spouse doesn't understand, your friends don't understand. If they're not entrepreneurs, they don't know what it's like to go to sleep thinking about payroll and accounting and legal and operations and clients and employee retention and all of that stuff.
Right. Because you don't know what tomorrow holds. I never knew what I was going to expect when I walked in the door. Right.
Yeah. I mean, I always knew I was going to expect a lot of questions that I had to answer all the time. Mm-hmm. And most of the time there were so many questions because my answers were not clear. My direction was not clear because I wasn't clear in my own mind. Right. And because I was embroiled in this lawsuit and it was really dry, it was taking all of my energy. So in order to build a support system, some of it's trial and error, but the other part is finding like-minded individuals who share similar experiences to you. Okay. So finding entrepreneur groups that are out there to join. And there are a lot of great ones. I'm a part of one called YEC, which is Young Entrepreneurial Council, and it's for entrepreneurs who do $1 million or more in business and are under 40.
Okay.
I got in when I was under 40. Yeah. That's one. There's, EO is another big one. And there's several others out there. So it's really about researching these groups. I didn't know about these groups until I randomly met these people at an Inc. 5000 event.
Right.
Because I wasn't a person who looked online for groups or organizations or anything like that. Once I joined that group, though, and I realized the power of community, then I started seeking other groups. I really started manifesting these other groups in my life.
Right.
And then I have another organization that I'm a big part of that really fills different voids for me.
Right.
Called Unconventional Life.
Okay.
And we take retreats. We go on retreats all over the world. And these are a group of very eclectic people of all different backgrounds who want to live life on their terms, not based on what societal norms say we need to do. Okay. And so that group serves a different purpose for me. You know, I have an organization, like I've done a lot of fundraising for Leukemia Lymphoma Society. So that fills a philanthropic, need for me.
Right.
I've done a lot of, running over the years. I ran 4 marathons. I was part of a group called Team in Training. So that fulfills that need for me. So I think it's important to have all these different, organizations that you can build camaraderie with, because there's like-minded individuals in there. And you can't, I think it's unrealistic to join one group and think that group is going to fulfill all these different needs that we have. So it's important to have various organizations that you can rely on.
Yeah, I think it's important to take the time to do it, right? I always I know particularly early in the business, I was awful at sort of managing that aspect of my life, right? And so you really almost have to have somebody pull you out and say, hey, you gotta take that weekend off every once in a while to go spend with friends, to go to a concert, or go do something that you love, right? That helps you sort of get out of that mode for a little while. Because I don't think you can be your best if you're constantly in that mode, right? If you're not taking care of your relationships, taking care of your friendships, taking care of the things, doing some things that you really, really enjoy, that make you whole, make you, right?
Completely. Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's extreme, and people just get so wrapped up in the business that they're just all of a sudden the weekend comes, they have nothing planned. Right. And I used to be that person. You have to schedule fun.
Right.
You got to schedule it. It just doesn't happen for you. You have to schedule these things in your life, or you're going to burn out.
And then you're not good to anybody.
No.
What is faith? I love From Addict to Entrepreneur. What is this new program? And is it a result of selling the business? How did that come about, and that whole sort of part, that last year and a half or so of your life as you've sold the company and now you're working on this new program? Tell us about that.
Yeah. So the last year I was in business, I started this platform called Fate with an interview series. So I interviewed former addicts who are now entrepreneurs, and I still have that going. And I write articles. That's what I write for Thrive Global and for Medium. And I'm just starting to release those on YouTube. And then towards the end of the year, I'll release it in podcast form. And, I speak to people like Joe Polish of the Genius Network, and Mike Lindell, who started MyPillow.com, and, people like that who were addicts, big time addicts, and have completely changed their life around and have thriving companies and give back to the communities and give back to the addiction world, give people a second chance. And I started interviewing a lot of people there and examining the similar traits that addicts and entrepreneurs have. And it's very, very interesting. So what I wanted to do when I sold the company was impact and support other entrepreneurs like myself who didn't have anywhere to go, who might not want to go to an anonymous program. Right. And so that's why I am rolling out a 10-week mentoring program for entrepreneurs and business leaders who are dealing with addictive and compulsive behavior challenges that are affecting them as a leader in their company, as family member, and as friends.
Okay.
And for anybody who might be interested in that, I'm holding a free webinar so everybody can find out some more information about what it's all about.
Okay.
And the webinar will be July 1st. And you can access that at michaelgdash.com/fate.
Okay.
And you can go and you can sign up for that. And like I said, it's free, so you can get some more information to see if it might be the right program for you. And we're looking to kind of, it's one-on-one mentoring, and then we're building a community so that we can support each other, so that there are other ways to reach out and connect with individuals who are going through the same challenges we are. And you don't have to leave your office. You can do it in your office, right?
Right.
Or wherever. You don't have to go drive a half an hour to a meeting and drive a half hour back and actually physically be present. You can stay anonymous in this if you want. So it's a no judgment zone, and we're there to really build and support each other. And so that's the platform that I've been building. And, you know, I've seen that if you're an addict and they have some of the traits that make entrepreneurs successful,
Right.
that never take no for an answer mentality, the ability to be extremely creative, to, you know, find their fix, their ability to go above and beyond the call of duty whenever they need to get
Obsessed.
Yes. If you take those traits though and you point them in a positive direction,
You light the
then
world on fire, man.
They can be the most successful entrepreneurs out there. And guys like Joe Polish and Mike Lindell are two perfect examples of that. And there's many others. Ariana Huffington, you know, was formerly an addict as well.
I didn't know that. No, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Wow. So if two things, where can we get the book now? Because it just came out, and yes. you're in that I love that phase of that early, you know, the release date and the mad dash to sell, and to be out there talking about the book. And I do appreciate that, because I know that rush and that time crunch that you're in. Where can they get the book now? And then talk about one takeaway you just want people to get from the book, if you share that with us.
Sure, they can get the book Chasing the
There it is. I hope you have it. Yeah, there you go.
This is a picture from when I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, from the top of Kilimanjaro.
Yep.
They can get the book at chasingthehighbook.com. That'll take you right to the Amazon page. And I would encourage everybody to check it out. And if you enjoy it, please write a review. You know, it's not easy. I mean, this is my first book, and it's definitely not easy self-promoting it. I've learned a lot already in the couple weeks that I've been doing this. And I really think there's a lot of takeaways that people can incorporate into their lives. And, you know, a couple things. One is, you know, the smallest step forward can lead to the biggest impact.
That's brilliant.
Just to take that small step. You know, don't look at like this overwhelming, like addiction is a thing, for instance. Like when somebody told me you're never going to gamble again, I was like, oh my God, the word never is like daunting. But it's all about how we frame things in our mind, right? We say, no, I'm just not going to gamble tomorrow. Or it's the same thing with a diet. It's the same thing with, you know, your mindset. It's the same thing with how you treat your employees, how you treat yourself, working out. I mean, any of these things. So I think that's a big one. And I think that really and I talk about it in the book, there's a chapter called The Habit of Habit Making.
Right.
And really important to, you know, build strong habits around yourself. And as we evolve as people, our habits will evolve as well. So tap into your curiosity, try out new things. Some of them will resonate, others will not. The ones that do resonate, incorporate into your new habits. So as you're evolving, your habits are evolving. So you keep it fresh and you keep it fun. And you show the love to yourself that you need to really be at peak optimal performance for others. And I think there's a lot in the book that you can learn about that.
Well, I tell you what, you made my list of must reads. I think that Forbes list is coming out this Sunday. So congrats on that. But I think it is a must read because it really resonated with me. Thank you, Michael. I know we've got to get going, but I do appreciate your time. And guys, go out. I think you can buy the book on Amazon. Can you buy it from your website, or is it just Amazon bookstores?
Yeah, just go to chasingthehighbook.com.
Okay.
So they could also go to my website and buy it, Michael G-DASH, and find out some more information about me if they're interested. And I do speaking opportunities and mentoring and all sorts of stuff.
Okay, good. Well, this is Power Lunch live on LinkedIn. And we try to do this program, like I said before, every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 12 noon. And if you like the program, please do share it. And thank you so much for your time, Michael.